Surprise! I'm back! Welcome to a special honeymoon edition of the Telegram Football Insiders. I'm Josh Wallfish, joined by Ethan Joyce. Ethan is not here this week because he is on his wonderful honeymoon with his new wife, Kelly. And obviously, I am already in Virginia at my new job. But we didn't want you to enter conference play without the two of us discussing our thoughts on the three conferences in the Twin Counties. So let's jump right in. 1A, Two Rivers, North Edgecombe, Rocky Mount Prep, Tarboro. Tarboro has gone 15-0 in the previous 3 years in the Two Rivers Conference. They've won 24 consecutive conference games. What are the chances they don't make it 29 consecutive conference games by the beginning of November?
I mean, you've hit on it. It seems like these last few games that the offense kind of keeps getting in its own way. You know, that would be my only concern here because, you know, I feel like Tarboro is just one of those schools that they're just a good football team. They're not a good 1A football team. They're a good football team, period. You know, so if anyone's going to get in their own way to keep going undefeated in conference, it's going to be the Vikings themselves.
But quite frankly, as much as the offense has sort of hindered itself a little bit with some costly penalties, defensively, this is the best defensive unit in the Twin Counties. Mm-hmm. And the stats are going to prove it. They've had pitched 3 shutouts already. The most points they've given up this season is the 21 they gave up to Southern Nash. In reality, they really should have only given up 14 to Southern Nash. You got sort of that last sort of garbage time touchdown that Southern Nash tacked on. So defensively, this is a team that Coach Andrew Harding has said is gunning for that single season scoring record in Tarboro history. And given the fact that they play Rocky Mount Prep, South Creek, Northampton County, those are 3 teams that have combined for 3 wins. Granted, you look at who Rocky Mount Prep has beaten for 2 of those wins. Mm-hmm. They could easily shut out all 3 of those teams. Riverside Martin is undefeated, but how good are they actually? You know, that's difficult because they haven't played a tough non-conference schedule. We've talked a lot about North Edgecombe having played a very soft non-conference schedule, but their defense is playing fairly well as well. So I'm giving Tarboro a 95% chance of running that record of 29. I'm giving them a 100% chance to run that record of 28. I think the only thing I can think that could potentially get in their way is if North Edgecombe's defense rises to the occasion, forces a couple of costly penalties, is able to sort of grind it out a little bit, similar to what Southwest Edgecombe did 2 weeks ago against Tarboro.
Yeah.
That sort of game, and maybe North Edgecombe punches 1 or 2 in, they could win a 14-12 sort of game if their defense is able to still play up to that level. But again, that's a big question mark. When I go back to 2 years ago, North Edgecombe was 8-1, 9-1, I think, entering that last week of the season. They're undefeated in the conference. Everybody's very excited. They go into Tarboro and lose 48-0. It still remains to be seen if any of these teams can actually take out Tarboro.
Sure.
That being said, the Vikings are picking the Two Rivers.
Absolutely.
110%. All right, I will agree with you. I think Tarboro runs that record up to 29 straight conference victories. We'll move quickly to 2A Eastern Plains Conference. I'm going to ignore you from this conversation a little bit because you haven't seen any of these teams play.
Great.
And I don't think it's fair to you to sort of say who you think is going to win when in reality 5 teams have a legitimate chance to win. Mm-hmm. We don't know how good Washington is because they played a ridiculously hard schedule. They've lost all those games so far. And it's difficult to say when you play Tarboro, Havelock, Conley, Kinston. It's tough to say you're a bad football team for losing all those games, but it's clear Washington is not as strong as they are. Southwest Edgecomb's 1-5, but easily could be 3-3. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe even 4-2 if they finish off a couple games a little bit differently. Farmville Central is 4-2, but has looked shaky in some of their wins. North Johnson looked great at the beginning of the season, haven't looked great since. North Pitt's probably still the cellar dweller. And then the biggest wild card is Wilson Benningfield. Mm-hmm. Right? Look at their last 3 games of non-conference slate. 18-15 loss to Wilson Fike. They're down 31-0 at halftime against Nash Central, end up losing that game by more than 20 points, and then they come back next week and beat Wilson High.
Yep.
I don't know what that says about the Big East, what that says about Wilson Benningfield, but if Benningfield's on their game, they win this conference hands down. The problem is I have yet to see them put together 2 consecutive good games. So who knows who's going to win this conference? I think Southwest actually has as good a shot as any because defensively they are so strong, and it seems like the offense is starting to find its rhythm. But if I have to make a pick, I'm going to pick Farmville Central because I think they're the most consistent. But I'm going to be excited watching from afar just to see how that breaks down, because there is a confluence of mediocrity in the Eastern Plains that's going to have somebody rise out as a champion. We're going to move to 3A. There's a confluence of 6 fantastic football teams, and there's a decent chance not all 6 of them are going to make the playoffs, which is a true shame.
Yeah.
Quickly break it down. Is it Rocky Mountain Southern Nash at the top, or is this really more even than we give people credit? We give other teams credit for.
I mean, I think until we see, say Nash Central holds tight with Rocky Mount or surprisingly beats them, I'm still going to put the Griffons and the Firebirds up as 1A and 1B of the potential top finishers here. And, it's really going to come down to when those two play each other, just because we've talked about it before, how the Griffons are going to be able to match up with Southern Nash and their offense probably better than anyone else can. Just, with the parts that they have on defense.
They're the team, I agree with you, that's going to be able to replicate what Tarboro did to them 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks ago now.
And so, Southern Nash, they started by rotating all these guys in. You're going to probably see that taper off a little bit because a lot of that was building depth and getting some younger guys some playing time. But you're still going to have a ton of fresh legs coming at you from that offense. And maybe one of the more versatile offenses that Brian Foster's had in his last few years there. So, I mean, it's really going to be interesting to see how those two come out.
And we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, end of week 6. 5 teams are entering conference play with 4 wins or more.
Crazy.
Assuming that 7 wins is the plateau that's going to get you into the playoffs. Again, we don't know with this new system how many wins are going to be good enough to make the playoffs. I'm going to set the mark arbitrarily at 7 because I think 7 and reporting 7-3 is going to be good enough.
Sure.
How many teams from our era do we think are going to hit 7 wins? I think Rocky Mount High. I think Southern Nash. But can either Nash Central or Northern win 3 Big East games to get to 7 wins?
I think Northern could. I really do. And, Nash Central, it's been great for them to get the start to the season they've had. They're really going to go through some more learning here in this conference play. Northern Nash, I mean, we've talked about how good their defense has been, and it seems like their offense is really starting to produce a little more points and getting a little more consistent and backing up that defense and not putting all the pressure on them. So I think Northern could come out with 7 wins.
I'm going to pull out, I think, the most surprising prediction I could have ever envisioned myself making. And that is the top 4 teams in the Big East this year are going to be the 4 teams from the Twin Counties. I truly think that Nash Central and Northern Nash are going to beat both Fike and Hunt. I think reality, that game at Northern Nash this year between the Bulldogs and Knights is going to determine which one of those teams makes the playoffs. Yeah. And that is a truly remarkable thing. And I think Nash Central's going to win that game. I go back to how they played against Bunn. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, there was every reason for them to crawl up in that hole and sort of let Bunn dictate that game in the second half. Let Bunn win by 3-4 scores. Say, you know what, we gave it a good effort for a little bit, but it wasn't meant to be. And they stuck with Bunn through and through. And yes, Bunn ended up winning by 3 scores. Right. But Nash Central cut it down to 8 a couple of times.
Yeah.
They got it to where they had a chance to make a one big play and win that game. And they didn't. And I think that's partly because of where they are as a program. Yeah. But the Bulldogs are a very good team. I think I trust their offense and some of the weapons they have with Vernon Whitaker, CJ Pierce, Travis Griffin at quarterback. McKinley Lyons have been a huge impact for them since coming back from injury. I like their offense to be able to do some damage to Northern Nash's defense in a way I don't know if I can trust Northern Nash's offense just yet. So I'm going to say Nash Central, Rocky Mountain High, Southern Nash all make the playoffs from the Big East this year. And who would have thought we'd be talking about Nash Central potentially making the playoffs? So let's wrap up this video with the most difficult prediction to make. Who wins the Big East?
Rocky Mount. I'm going to give it to Rocky Mount.
I'm also going to give it to Rocky Mount. I think this is a team that understands what it takes to beat champions. I think they are a team that's going to rise to the occasion on the last Friday in October with the Big East title on the line. I think they're going to rise up against Southern Nash, be able to limit what the Firebirds are able to do offensively. And again, do just enough themselves offensively. Maybe even get a nice special teams touchdown like they've gotten a couple of times so far this season to upend the Firebirds. But hey, I would not be surprised if those two teams meet again later in the playoffs for a chance at a state title. Southern Nash is not going to go quietly into the night at all, whether in the Big East or in the playoffs. So Ethan, with that, I am finally out of here. And quite frankly, there's only one way to celebrate. With a touchdown dance. We'll see you later, Twin Counties. Surprise! I'm back! Sorry. I completely lost it. Because I forgot to warn you that's what I was going to do, too.
That's fine.